There's an event that is coming up, and it is on May 6th and 7th, and it will be at Citizens Bank Park, and we've promoted this before. It's called Home Runs for the Heart. Good music here, Casey. Closer to the heart. We want to welcome our friend, Mr. Richie Ashburn Jr. to the show.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you again, Richie.
You too.
And you brought with you Derek Fitzgerald?
Yes.
All right. And so, first of all, before we get into Derek's story, which I want to hear about, which is pretty amazing, this event is a chance for you to get out and hit some balls at Citizens Bank Park, right, Richie?
Yeah, May 6th and 7th. It's at Citizens Bank, obviously, and you get to, what's a dream for me, you get to go hit balls, try to hit them out of the park and win prizes, and there's really... It's fun.
Have you ever hit one out of the park
Not
before?
at Citizens Bank yet. I'm 0 for
how
whatever.
Close?
I hit the top of the fence the first year I did.
Man, that's pretty cool. That's an achievement.
Oh, man.
But that's it.
Casey,
I haven't gotten any closer since.
You put it back to the warning track, right?
I hit the warning track. Yeah.
I mean, that's an accomplishment.
I actually saw Casey hit that one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then last year, abysmal. I don't even think I made it out of the infield last year.
Listen, what you're offering as part of this, and obviously it's for a great cause, a great charity, and everything. This is a bucket list type thing. This is where you to get out there and to get this is an experience that you unless you are in the bigs, you're not going to get. And to be able to be out there and look at the park and look from the vantage point of an actual batter is something amazing.
Yeah, you get this. You get the full view of the park, and not a lot of people hit home runs there, but it's so much fun to just stand in that box and try.
As it's happening, I assume this is the case, but is there video running so you'd have a keepsake if you did do it, or can you have people there recording
it? Oh, sure.
it?
Yeah. They let you. Families come. Excuse me.
Sure.
Families come down and video their loved ones hitting, and again, not too many hit them out, but when they do, it's exciting, it's fun, and they let you shag balls out there.
That's
put
awesome.
About 10 guys out there shagging balls. It really is a dream come true, and there's no better way to raise money for the Heart Association.
Sure, yeah, exactly. And of course, your father passed away from a heart attack.
Yeah, 16 years ago.
16 years ago?
1997.
How old was he?
He was 70.
70.
He was 70. And you guys had all this poop talk a little earlier. And
that's a regular feature.
the one story, Dad never told this story, but I always hear you guys talking about the woman who got hit twice by him.
Yes,
I figured I'd add one for you.
Okay, all right.
He was sick with a summer flu, but he still played. Oh. And he was trying.
I like it already.
He was trying to stretch a double into a triple, and between second and third, he kind of lost it. He slides in the third, and the only umpire to ever throw him out of a game was Ken Burkhart.
Wait a minute, before you go on. When he was sliding into turd, did he feel a big or third? Did he feel I messed it up? God damn it,
son of a bitch!
I was going for the diarrhea.
I know it's okay.
I never used that one before. I will next time.
All right, go ahead.
So he slides into third, and again, the only umpire to ever throw him out. He did it twice in his career, and this happened to be one of them. He slides in the third, and Ken Burkhart's, he gets in safely, and Ken says, he's like, Rich, I think you crapped your pants. And Dad goes, that's the best call you've made all year. And immediately got ejected.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
And he was more than happy to leave.
Wow. I had another story about your dad recently, and that there's a band called Yo La Tengo, and I didn't know this, but apparently they named themselves after something that your father said during a game.
Yeah, when he was with the 62 Mets, his last year in baseball, and I think Ken Burns did a segment on this on his baseball
series.
Wow, yeah.
And it was like one of the last segments. And it was called Yo La Tengo, and in Spanish that means I got it. And there was a shortstop, Elio Chacon, for the New York Mets, and he couldn't speak English. And he used to run players over all the time trying to catch balls. Frank Thomas used to be a second baseman, I think, for the Mets, and he got run over many times. But Dad was like, I'm not going to get run over by this guy. So he learned what is it to Yo La Tengo. So one day he had the chance, and he's, Yo La Tengo, ball dropping between him and the shortstop. Well, Ilya Chacon understood that, and he veered off and ran over Frank Thomas. And there's a lot of people that I see Yo La Tengo out there on certain things, and
that's wild.
Yeah.
Last summer, my nephew Owen played for the traveling media baseball team, and he was given number one. So my sister was, she texted me because he wanted something of a current Philly. So she had texted me and said, "Who was was there any Philly that was number one?" And I just had to laugh. I'm like, you should know this, but they ended up winning the state championship, the Mid-Atlantic championship, and then ended up, losing, pretty far on. But this year, my son is number one for his T-ball team.
Nice.
So I think that's pretty cool.
All right, well, the event, like I said, is coming up May 6th and 7th at Citizens Bank Park. Real quick, let's talk to Derek, who is here, who's a cancer survivor. And Derek, you've had, like Richie was giving us a little bit about your background. You've had a pretty rough go at things, right?
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting. Back in 2003, I was your regular, standard, married guy, overweight, out of shape, just focused on work, and I wasn't feeling too hot. And doctors pulled a grapefruit-sized tumor out of my stomach.
Whoa.
So they patched me up. They put me through chemo, and I go into remission, so cancer-free, and I start putting my life back together. And 3 months out of chemo, I start having a hard time breathing. So I go into the hospital, and they say, Derek, we know you've had a tough year, but I'm sorry to tell you, you have heart failure. So
you'll forgive me for saying this, but you're a bit of a complainer.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, you're like, you got to look up and say, what?
Was that because of the chemo, or was this a completely separate problem?
No, it was caused by the chemo, and basically the doctors tell you, we know how to fix hearts.
Yeah.
We're not as sure with cancer. So we're going to address the cancer first, and if the heart thing happens, we'll deal with it then. So I got a pacemaker defibrillator, and for 6 years I had heart failure, and really, I would go through moments where I was okay, but then all of a sudden it was like I was a boxer, and I'd get my bell rung, and I've
heard it described. And you feel the sweats and everything, and right,
the sweats, your heart starts thumping, and
Sure.
you're dizzy, and I was out on my feet and didn't know it. So
Wow.
This started slowly every now and again, but then it'd pick up and pick up and pick up. And so by August of 2010, my doctor said, you know what, listen, your heart's not getting any better. It's time to go on the transplant list. And I was like, wow, okay.
Wow.
So it was something that I had to go through at that point. And, between August of 2010 and December 2010, I went from being just okay to propped up in a hospital bed, couldn't lift my head, couldn't lift my arms, couldn't tell people walking in and out of the hospital room to visit me.
Right.
January 3rd, 2011, I received my new heart. And, literally the day after I received the heart, I started up on the walker doing laps around the hospital wing. And it was an amazing feeling.
Right.
And so from that point on, I started training. I started crawling from one side of my bedroom to the other.
Right.
And I knew that I had this amazing gift. I could feel the heart again, and I wanted to give back. And so I found organizations like the American Heart Association, Leukemia Lymphoma Society. But, what I wanted to do was give back and pay it back, pay it forward. So from that point on, 8 months post-heart transplant, I ran my first 5K. 2 months later, of 10 months post-transplant, I ran my first half marathon, Philly.
10 months after getting a new heart.
Correct.
Wow.
And then I started doing triathlons. So basically last year I did 3 triathlons. I did a half Ironman. I ran the Philly full marathon.
And you got a new heart in 2011. And before this, you had never been an athlete, a runner, none of that stuff.
Back in high school.
Back then, okay.
15, I was completely out of shape.
In a way, did you feel the onus was on you to honor the person who had donated by getting the most out of this heart and doing right by it, by their donation?
Absolutely. This is a debt that I feel that I need to repay.
Yeah.
Although I never feel like I'll be able to fully repay it.
Sure.
Do you know whose heart you have?
I do not. It's kind of like a closed adoption. When you go on the transplant list, they give you a social worker. When you're a donor family and that time comes, they give you a social worker. So I wrote a letter 6 months post-transplant to my donor family. I handed it to my social worker. That social worker, passed it along.
Okay.
I know they received it, but if they don't respond, you'll never know.
Right. That's an amazing story. That's an incredible story. Wow. And the American Heart Association, obviously, instrumental in helping to not necessarily find hearts for people, but
no, but keeping me alive
Yeah.
for 6 years with heart failure.
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't happen on its own.
Right.
And fundraisers like Home Runs for Heart and what we're doing here can help save other people from going through the same things that I did.
Right.
incredible. Well, this is one of the events that the American Heart Association has. What are the details on this, Richie, that people might need to know as far as getting registered and all those other things?
Well, I think it's heart.org Philly Walk.
Just go to PrestonandSteve.com. It's
There you
the
go.
top link there, and you can link right over. And
That's it.
Really dropped the ball on that,
After
Richie.
16 years, I might know that.
I'll help you out.
But the event, you were saying, I know it says here May 6th and 7th at Citizens Bank Park, but there's a media day coming up before that, right? You
Yeah,
mentioned-
April 24th, and
Okay.
I've extended you an invitation
Yep.
if you can come. And I wanted to extend an invitation for Derek on May 7th to come part of. I have a team every year that hits, my son Taylor and myself and my cousin, but I always leave a spot open, and I'm hoping Derek will come down.
Absolutely.
And
Thank
Awesome.
you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. Well, an amazing story. It's
you.
absolutely incredible. And like Nick said, we'll have the link to this right up on the site. And it's, hey, man, like you were saying earlier, Steve, it's a dream come true for some people.
Sure.
Go out and swing the bat at Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah.
And you know what? Practice a little bit. Knock that thing out of the park. It'd be a pretty sweet deal. So, Richie, always great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by. Derek, great to meet you. And good luck with everything. We appreciate it. All right. Home runs for the heart, like we said. PrestonandSteve.com. All the information is right there. Very, very cool event.